Again, for those who've just joined, a good afternoon. My name is Laura Vlasic, and we're just going to give it about 1 or 2 more minutes to respect everyone's time, and then we're going to go get started. So I hope everyone can hear me all right.
Rusty with me, so we have. I don't really still have strong feelings. It's always a good sound. Webinars are never. I find them to be advanced. Okay.
It may be helpful for people to mute themselves if you're not talking to kind of keep some of that feedback. If you're talking, that's fine. That just may help with some of that. Thanks. All right, well, we will get started. My name is Laura Vlasic, and I am the CSI Series Coordinator. Okay, I apologize that I'm having a little bit of a kickback. But like I said, my name is Laura Vlasic. I'm the CSI E-Series Coordinator, and I work at Vanderbilt University. My contact information is up here. I just want to give you a little bit of background information about Derek Bundy, who's our featured presenter today, and also the CSI Student Activities Organization Chair. He is also currently the Student Involvement Advisor at University of Chicago, and has sort of been all over the country through various educational endeavors at Loyola University and North Carolina State. So enjoys cheering on the Chicago Blackhawks, which I know have had at least a good last year anyway. We'll just do a quick welcome here, and then we'll turn this over to Derek to begin our presentation, and then we'll have about 5 to 10 minutes of question and answers. Also feel free to enter anything you can into the chat. If you have questions as they come up, feel free to write those, and we'll try to address those at the end. And then our next webinar is scheduled for December 17th. I'll talk about that at the end. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it over to Derek now.
Hey, y'all. Thanks, Laura. As Laura mentioned, I'm Derek Bundy. Can everybody see my screen? I'm hoping. Yes? So today we're going to be discussing student organization management systems. So a little bit of an introduction, like she said. I am the chair for student organizations and activities on the Commission for Student Involvement, and I really like to engage with our community. So I am always just a tweet or an email away. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at my handle, at Derek Bundy, or by email at tcbundy@uchicago.edu. Throughout the presentation, like I say, I'm big on Twitter, so please feel free to engage with one another throughout this webinar on Twitter or with me so I can go back, and if I don't get to your questions at the end, I can always find you on the hashtag CSI orgs. Then that way I can go back and kind of continue the conversation with you outside of this scheduled hour. I will also be using that to pull maybe a few question and answer during the webinar in addition to whatever we get in our chat box. So really looking forward to spending some time with you. Like I say, feel free to engage and flag me down. So before we jump right in, I want to kind of go over the purpose of this webinar and why this topic at this time. I see a lot of questions about organizational management systems regularly through the CSI listserv, on Facebook, on Twitter. Folks are usually asking pretty regularly, you know, who uses OrgSync? Can I bring it to my campus? What do I need to know? So I really hope through this webinar to demystify the process of choosing a platform that is right for you and your institution today. It's a big commitment, usually a heavy financial commitment. So my hope is that through this webinar we can cover some basic highlights of each platform and then be able to talk about going about choosing things in a way that is sensible. So there are a number of platforms out there, but given the time we have today, I am discussing 5 different platforms. OrgSync, Collegiate Link, which is a Campus Labs product, Community, which is a product out of the Simplicity suite of products, Grouped, and Check I'm Here. I just want to be clear with folks that today I'm not here to give any kind of special product endorsement. I think all 5 of these products are really great, and it's really about helping you figure out what they're all about. So then that way, if you want to ask opinion questions from people later or set up demos, you kind of have some context. Because like I say, I think there are a lot of pros to all of these systems, and I've used multiple of them in my work. So just want to make it clear that I'm not going to be promoting one over the other today. So that said, let's jump right in and talk about some program highlights. We're going to start with OrgSync, and I'm going to be using some terminology in these program platform highlights. You're going to see that a lot of them have similarities. So as we go on, you'll see that some of the terminology ends up getting repeated or modified a little bit, and I'll make sure to clarify those as we come to them. So some key features for students when you use OrgSync. Your student organizations will have the option for roster management, so that can really help you see who's involved in those groups. But on their end, they can also customize subgroups and position listings. So a really great example is not every student organization labels their officers as president, treasurer, etc. An example of that for me is at my institution, I advise the Model United Nations team, and they use Model UN terminology. So they use things like Secretary General, Director General, those sorts of things. So they can modify their position listings in a way that makes sense to their organizational structure. And those subgroups are really helpful as well because they're able to break out different committees. Say they have like a marketing committee, they can create a different subgroup within their portal to do that within the roster. So really nifty. And that kind of moves into the next feature, which is messaging tools. OrgSync has an internal messaging system, both for administrators and for student groups. And the neat thing about it is once you set up your subgroups, you can type your message and then check off which list of people to send it to. It's kind of like having a built-in listserv or email list host. You can determine who's going to see your message. There's event creation and a calendar for students, so this is a really great way for them to add on to things in addition to what they might be doing with their flyers on Facebook, Twitter, etc. And the thing that I really love about it is that they have calendar integration. So what I mean by that is that if you enter this event in OrgSync, you can share it out to iCal, to Outlook, any kind of mobile calendar that you may already be using. You can share the OrgSync calendar into your overall calendar, so you don't have to enter the same events twice. I know we're all very busy, particularly at this time of year, so I think that's a really great way to save some time, and it auto-updates. So when events go into the calendar that you might be sharing, they will pop up in whatever calendar you're using to integrate with. Same goes for students. There's file storage and sharing. So this is something that I really strongly encourage with my student organizations. This is the best way to keep a digital archive of things so that 5 years down the road, the president of a club doesn't have to email somebody who was here years ago and say, how did you do that, or where are our bylaws? This is a really great way, like I said, to keep that archive, and then from the administrative side, we can go in and be able to kind of vet those resources for our students and point them in the right direction. So they can set different visibility levels. Say, for example, if it's something that they only want their executive board to be able to see, if they create an executive board subgroup through their roster, they're able to kind of have different levels of privacy on any kind of forms or documents they might be uploading. The next feature is a treasury module, which is something that many of you are probably interested in if you house your financial accounts for organizations on campus. Students can view their finances kind of like an online bank statement, right? And they can also request funding and purchase requests through here and submit receipts, those sorts of things on the student end. From an administrator end, you have the option to kind of build out your financial module in the way that it makes sense for your organization. So if student government allocates your finances, it's possible that you might be able to give student government's portal control to upload budgets, things like that. Polls and elections, it's just like it sounds. It's multiple choice survey sort of thing. So say my student group wants to vote on the color of their t-shirt this year, they can do that and their members are able to take a digital vote. Similarly, there are discussion forums where they might be able to post a topic and have people give long format response. So if I want to give a big passionate response about why I think the t-shirt should be purple this year, I can do that versus just a simple click and response with a poll. Additionally, they have a to-do list feature where for students you can add any number of things and say, we're having our potluck on Thursday and we need somebody to sign up to bring plates, plasticware, buns, you know, whatever it might be. They can add that and then they can delegate those particular assignments out to people on their roster. And people in the roster would get a notification that I am responsible for bringing the buns to the potluck. There's a photo gallery, which again kind of gives a nice historical visual archive of what the organization has been doing from year to year, and this is a really great way to have a network of things to use for advertising events and also to be able to really get a visual of what our groups are doing. On the flip side of that, there's also video embedding. Student groups that may have YouTube channels can embed their videos within a portal so that's easy to find, and they have a library of their visual archive right there. And for students, it can also, if you choose to turn this feature on, create their own website that would be hosted through OrgSync. So for example, if I had OrgSync at Derek Bundy University, it would be derekbundy.orgsync.com/my RSO name, right? So it's really simple to use. They have really great resources for building out websites. So if you work at an institution where maybe IT services doesn't manage student organization websites or they're difficult to use, this may be a nice, easy to use feature for your students to be able to build outward-facing websites. So that's some stuff that the students get. On the side of the administrators and the things that you will probably be interacting with on a day-to-day basis, you have management as the umbrella administrator for all of these portals. You can set which features are available to students and which ones are not. You can have a customizable registration process. So everybody collects different things in their institutions, bylaws, rosters, agreement to certain policies, all those sorts of things. Everybody's registration is a little different, so you have the option to create and build out a robust registration form that suits your organization's needs. Again, you have overall event and calendar management, so you can build an entire university calendar of all the events that students might be putting in through their portals. Additionally, you have the option to set approvals, so if you want to vet everything before it goes onto the calendar, you're able to do so. I mentioned a little earlier that you have the option on the back end to load in your financial structure the way that it works for you. So, like I say, it reads out like an online bank statement for student organizations, but they also have a few additional options in terms of submitting requests and reimbursements, things like that. OrgSync also connects to e-commerce platforms like PayPal. Now, obviously, not every institution allows e-commerce for their student organizations, and that's certainly something you'd want to connect with your legal team on to make sure that that's okay beforehand, but it is an option. Every portal gets campus branding, you would work with OrgSync's headquarters to make sure that the branding is the way you want it and is in line with your university's identity and brand guidelines. And you can also include campus authentication. So public emails wouldn't allow you to log into the system. They would have to use whatever campus username and password that they have for other systems. They can link that in. And it also provides some really powerful data collection and back-end reporting. So if I want to see how many students are involved in Greek organizations, I can pull that sort of information and have it specialized to exactly what I'm looking for based on what portals are in my system. Lots of great reporting. They do a lot of great visualization of data and graphing of data as well. So if you are more of a visual person instead of a data dump into a spreadsheet, they have that option. Really useful stuff. And a kind of quick look inside. This is what OrgSync looks like from a portal view. So if I were a member of the ACPA leadership team, this is what our portal looks like. You'll notice that there's a news feed in the middle, some links to popular forms and files within your portal, events, but all of those individual features I had mentioned before are available in this toolbar up top. Additionally, you can link into any Twitter or Facebook page you might have so folks can kind of connect all of their various online presences, right? So that was OrgSync. Let's move on and take a quick look inside of Collegiate Link, which is powered by Campus Labs, and they have a number of other softwares that I'll mention in a little bit. But Collegiate Link is their student organization focused software. And so some of the key features for students, again, like I said, you're going to see some crossover between what's available in these platforms. Again, they have roster management and the ability to create customized position listings and those robust messaging tools where you're able to select subgroups as necessary to message and communicate out with students. Again, there's event and calendar creation and management, and again, they do have the option to integrate calendars into Outlook, iCal, etc. Similarly, they do have a file storage and sharing system with similar privacies as OrgSync had provided. There's also form creation and collection. So if any of you have used Google Forms before, it's very similar. You can create different types of form submissions where it may be multiple choice via drop-down box, check boxes, radio buttons, long form text entry if they need to be able to enter in something. It's really great because what happens is when they put these forms in, it dumps it into a already pre-organized Excel spreadsheet for you. So again, if that's something that's big to you in terms of your data collection, form creation and collection is going to be a really important feature not only for administrators but also for students. Additionally, there is a financial module. You can do funding and purchase requests through it. Again, it reads out like a transaction statement or report on the student end of things, and they do have access to upload certain reimbursements. They can hold elections through their portals, so this helps turn things digital and maybe be able to reach all of their membership instead of just the ones that might be able to come to an individual meeting. And they also have photo galleries available, as I had mentioned in OrgSync. So some key things to note for administrators that might be interested in Collegiate Link is, again, you have portal management through your umbrella. You have a customizable registration process, and you're able to set different groups of registrants. So if you have a different registration process for your Greek organizations compared to your non-Greek student organizations, you can set up multiple registration processes. Again, there's event and calendar management. That's a pretty common standard feature through many of these platforms. Financial management, where you're able to set up your processes through funding, budgeting, those sorts of things. And again, campus branding. That's a very popular feature, again, through most of these platforms. You have the option to brand it along with your university's identity and branding guidelines. Again, campus authentication is another feature for administrator if it's something that your campus is looking into. And they also provide a robust back-end portal for data collection and analyzing and really great reports. So I mentioned earlier that Campus Labs has other products. Three big ones are listed here on the PowerPoint, including like Beacon and Baseline. If your campus uses these other products, they speak really well together. Collegiate Link would speak and interact with Baseline and Beacon. So a consideration you may have when you're considering which platform is right for your campus is, do we use any other Campus Labs products? So this is what a University of Chicago Collegiate Link portal might look like for a student group. Again, you see all of those features on that left side toolbar there of what they're able to use. It provides a Twitter stream, again, links to other social media, contact information, a news feed. You're going, like I say, features are pretty similar across platforms. It's really a matter of what feels right and what does what you need for your students, what they need access to. That's really going to be what it boils down to. So from an administrative view, here's what you might see if you're administrating an entire umbrella of student organizations. So as you can see, there are a number of summaries available, just really quick visually. I can see how many student organization registration requests I have, how many form submissions I might have. So for example, we're taking registrations for Welcome Week activities and RSO fairs right now. So those are what those submissions are. We see how many incoming funding requests we have and how many purchase requests we have, so we know who is working on their finances, who we might need to follow up with to get proper receipts or documentation on things. And there's also the option to self-report experiences. So if you're looking to build a co-curricular transcript, this is a possibility within Collegiate Link as well that I hadn't mentioned. It gives you some quick numbers for metrics as well about how many active organizations you have, how many involved users are in your system, any upcoming events that you might need to approve. So really useful stuff. And if you were to go into any of these top features in this kind of top toolbar here, you can actually pull specialized reports on any of those given areas. So if I need to pull a specialized registration report, we just did our annual registration and we need to determine our numbers, I can go into organizations and pull that. That's also where I'd manage those and create those registration processes. Event management, user management, if you need to collect data on how many first years are in the system, you can pull that. So lots of great powerful stuff on the administrative end. So the next platform we're going to talk about is Community, which is a Simplicity product. Again, you're going to see a lot of similar features, including those roster management and messaging tools, event creation in a calendar, file storage, etc. For students, there's really nothing too out of the ordinary here that hasn't already been covered in other platforms, right? But in terms of administration, again, it has a lot of those same common features, but again, similar to the Campus Labs, if you use other Simplicity products on campus, particularly things that might link into your residence life systems, your student conduct systems, this is a really great way to have all of those platforms speak to one another. So I would take a look and see, are we using Simplicity products on campus? Is there a way that we can partner with other departments or divisions on campus that are using them and share data and really get a team effort on assessment and evaluation of how things are being used on campus and how things work. There's also Grouped is another platform. Grouped is something that I do not have a ton of experience with, but one of my Greek groups when I was at North Carolina State University was really excited about it and showed me it a little bit. So they have form creation and management, event registrations, the option to do robust surveying, member registration, invoicing and collecting payments. This is particularly useful if you do allow your student organizations to do e-commerce on campus. Of course, on that back end, then financial management tools, and of course, member management and communication. So the thing about Grouped that I've noticed is that this might be really suited very well towards things like programming boards or Greek organizations where they have a robust network themselves to manage and they may have an independent process compared to other student organizations. Student government might be another kind of key candidate for Grouped because they get a little more administrative access as students. So that might be a consideration depending on who you're looking to get org management software for and who your constituents might be. And then the last platform we're going to kind of discuss right now is Check I'm Here. The Check I'm Here team, I think, is on the call today, actually. I had the opportunity to talk with Ruben, the founder of Check I'm Here, just a couple weeks ago, and he's got some really exciting stuff, so I'm really excited to share some of it with you. They're a relatively new platform, but they've got some awesome things, so I encourage you to hop on Twitter and engage with them if you have questions about this platform in particular. So some key features of Check I'm Here. They really break their philosophy down into 4 major areas, including management. So a couple of the key features are that you can manage organizations and portals, their members and documents. You're able to create and approve events and their details, and you're also able to control and customize user access within your portals, depending on who might need what level of access. Their next big philosophy is about tracking, so you're able to verify your students in real time. They're very big on mobile apps and card swipes, so if you're really looking to take your campus mobile, this may be a really great platform for you to consider. Each mobile app is customized to your campus, and they serve both iOS and Android, and they come with free card swipes, as many as you need. So depending on how many folks you're bringing into events and how often you need to kind of track that data in real time, you can work with their team, and they will work with you to get you the amount of card swipes you need and be able to set up on your products that are mobile. There's a typo. That should say gather data with polls. They do polling, and you're able to get robust data through your portals. And you also have the option to sign digital waivers. So if you're at an event with a rock wall or a bounce house or something like that, where they may need to sign a waiver, you can do that digitally through the mobile app, and you can get somebody's signature and be able to store that electronically and keep an archive of any digital waivers you may have, which is a neat feature. Another portion of their philosophy is assessment. They're big on assessment. They really want to integrate student data to learn about engagement on campus and to learn where those gaps might be. And they do that, again, through these mobile apps. You're able to see real-time visualization of events and organizations and get an idea of who's showing up to things, where are we hitting a gap in our marketing and our branding, who do we need to include and reach out to that isn't being included. So that's really, really powerful. When I talked to Ruben, he was very big on using assessment to implement the features of this platform. So if you're big on assessment and really looking to put assessment in, all of these platforms are great, but this really ties really well into a mobile app if it's something that you're interested in. Also, their last major piece of their 4-point philosophy is engagement. They give you your campus-branded web portal for every event and organization, and Ruben's philosophy is that tying in with social media and tying in with where students are already at is critical. So they make it very easy to integrate the portal and events in with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and it helps, again, kind of get things where students are and eliminate the need to make 3 different event postings in 3 different places, but really to be able to put it in one place and then share it out robustly. So some cool stuff there. Additionally, they do have some budgeting tools. Each event comes with a budget so that you can track and stay up to date on what students might have been spending and do some post-event assessment. So for those of you that are particularly interested in financial elements, Check I'm Here has budgeting tools available. Quick look inside. I took a screenshot from when I met with Ruben. So this is just an example of what a mobile app might look like. Again, it's really based around the idea of meeting students where they're at, and so that's on mobile devices. So they do this really well, and I think it's something that's really exciting and that I hope to see more of in the future. On the back end, this is what you might see. So similar to any of the other platforms, there's a desktop application, and you have a dashboard of your various features that you need to manage. So, very intuitive, simple to use. So I know I just kind of threw a lot at you, and you probably have questions regarding some of these platforms. So feel free to jump in with questions anytime if you have them, because I know I'm just scratching the surface, but really what I'm encouraging you to do is consider exactly how to choose one of these platforms and what your next steps might be. And so really the main idea here is that you need to consider why you're looking to make this shift to a digital platform. why a digital platform, why now, who are we looking to serve, what are the must-haves. So before you start reaching out to any of these great platforms, my recommendation is that you make a list of why you're looking and the things that you must have. I find that when you're working with any of these customer service teams, it is really helpful to tell them what you're looking for instead of purchasing a platform and then hoping it meets your needs. If you can go into one of those meetings and really be upfront with what you're looking for and what you're hoping to do, they're going to be able to serve you much better. So really consider that and be prepared to talk about that. One of the big things I've learned in my time in making these sort of overarching decisions that are going to have an influence on how students do things is to include them. Involve students in your decision-making process or demos when you can. Be transparent, because ultimately they're the ones that are going to be using it on a day-to-day basis, and they should feel comfortable using it. For you to be able to get the data and assessment stuff that you need to be able to fulfill your processes, students need to feel comfortable with it. So when possible, include them, make sure that they have a voice in the process. You'll find implementation much simpler if you do that, because students will be on board and know what to expect instead of springing an entire new system on them. It can be very overwhelming, particularly for student leaders that are new to the process and are trying to figure everything out for the first time anyways. Like I had mentioned earlier, I hope to be a continuing network outside of this webinar about asking detailed experiences. Again, every institution is different and is looking for different things. That's why I'm not working to give endorsements and personal experiences on any of these platforms today. I really want you to be able to consider what you're looking for, and then reach out to folks and ask, you know, Derek, I know that you've used 4 out of the 5 platforms today. Can you tell me a little more about each of these? I had some questions about this particular feature. Is there a way that you might be able to share what that looks like through like a Google Hangout and take me like through a live walkthrough of your portal? I'm happy to do things like that. So consider that, but again, I think it's really beneficial if you make those appointments and those connections with peers with a list of questions in mind. Know what you're looking for, know what you want to ask. And speaking of asking questions, this is arguably one of the most important things that you should be considering when you reach out to any of these platforms. Be ready to ask some of the heavy questions about these platforms, such as their data security. Who owns the data, the student data that you're going to be giving them to make this platform work? Is it stored on their servers? Is it stored on your servers? Team up with your IT and legal departments to kind of further those conversations and make sure that you are maintaining your FERPA compliance. All of these organizations are really great at doing that. They exist to serve universities, but you know, ask those questions and make sure that you're on top of it and ahead of the curve in those particular arenas. Along with that, ask them, what data do you need from us and from our institution in order to have your platform operate properly? They all require varying levels of things, and some things may be optional, some things may be required. So again, team up with your legal counsel and your IT department to determine what sort of student data you are able to give and if it's going to actually work with the platform that you're considering. Also, what I really strongly encourage, since these platforms are robust and powerful and you're going to want to do different things with them and they take some time to learn, is really reach out and find out what the customer service experience is going to be. Do you have a dedicated account executive? Do you have somebody who is able to come to your campus and train you? What's the response time? Really what you need to be considering is how are you going to be able to get help when you need it. I have been on that back end before of, I need to launch a registration form in 24 hours and I am totally lost on a certain feature. And it was really helpful to have somebody available to me and an account executive where I had their information. I can reach through them directly without going through some big phone tree. So, you know, consider that and consider what your needs might be. Also related to customer service, you'll probably want to consider about how they communicate updates to you. A really prime example is OrgSync just rebranded their entire layout and portal, and they had a really great campaign calling it the new OrgSync, and they were all over social media and reached out to their clients to communicate and provide training well ahead of the updates. So, talk with folks, how are we going to learn about updates when they're coming? How are we going to get additional training on them? Are we going to get thrown into the fire? So really useful stuff to be able to ask, but also, how do they collect your feedback? Do they take your feedback and your experiences into the process as they continue to update platforms? I find the most rewarding experiences are the ones where you're able to provide real feedback about what you're experiencing in the system, because we're the ones that are using it on a day-to-day basis. So I would hope that your customer service representative is receptive to feedback that you may have. And as I mentioned earlier, what sort of training are they able to provide to staff and students when they come to your campus? So those are some of the really heavy questions that you should be considering and that you should be asking when you reach out to a platform, among others. But when in doubt, communicate with folks on your campus that may need to be looped into the conversation. It's a big commitment. It's a big financial commitment. It's a big technical commitment, so really make sure that you're including everybody who needs to be at the table, and think of those things beforehand. It'll make your process a lot smoother. So that was, a whirlwind tour of organizational management systems. I'm sure there's lots to talk about, so question and answer time. Feel free to, like I say, reach out on the hashtag CSIOrgs on Twitter, or reach out to us in the chat box here. I'm happy to take any questions you might have right now. So have at it.
Thanks, Derek. I can read a few of the questions I see in the questions box, unless anyone wants to jump in and just ask their question now. You can raise your hand and Derek can call on you, or I can just start reading the ones that have been entered here. All right. Someone asked that at their institution we are going to implement a software package here. We're interested in learning about trends in co-curricular software. Specifically, are co-curricular transcripts still important, viable, being used, or what's your take on that? Not sure if that's been addressed fully.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. So co-curricular transcripts are definitely very much still part of the trend of online systems, particularly in my experience in OrgSync and Collegiate Link products. It's not to say that other ones don't, but the ones that I've had direct experience with, they provide that there's approval of events and hours to be able to build that, to build credit. They also have individual profiles for each user to be able to add to their transcript and be able to log involvement, hours, positions, and roles. It kind of ends up looking almost like a version of a LinkedIn profile, actually, for individual users, if I were to outwardly put like my e-portfolio. The major trends that we're seeing are that it's important, but people are really having a difficult time figuring out how to get students to self-report. That's the challenge on any campus, right? So the key, I think, is really being intentional about building your processes out first before you start collecting. So then that way you have safety nets and fail-safes for when things might change a little bit, right? So ultimately, when you're collecting co-curricular transcripts, you want to make sure that there is a way for students to be able to self-report and that they understand how the process works, and that they're actually going to see some benefit to doing it. Oftentimes, students are not getting the connect between why a co-curricular transcript is important and why they should be taking the time to self-report and fill out forms. To them, it's just another form or email that you need to do. So really communicating the benefits is going to be really important. So I hope that answers the question. I know we could probably do an entire webinar on talking about co-curricular transcripts and the importance and what some best practices might be. Let me think here. There is one institution that I know that does it really well. I want to say it's Fort Hays State University. They use Collegiate Link, if I'm not mistaken, and they do a really, really great job of their co-curricular transcript processes. So I would recommend taking a look at their website and maybe reaching out to some of them and asking, how did you implement this? What were some of the challenges when you faced it? And if you have specific questions about how the co-curricular transcript feature actually works from a logistical standpoint. It's a really great question when you go through platforms to get some special training on. Again, ask those heavy questions of, is it going to do what you want to do? So like I mentioned before, ahead of time, know what you want your co-curricular transcript process to be, and see if a platform fits your vision, not the other way around.
There were a few questions about the co-curricular components and portfolios tracking, and I think I tried to encompass all of those, but if anyone has a follow-up question to that, feel free to jump in, just unmute yourself. If not, I'll go on to the next question. You touched on this a little bit with some. Do all have social media capability, or does it sort of vary? That was a question someone had.
That's a great question. So I know for a fact that 4 out of 5 of them do. I'm not sure about Grouped. I've never used Grouped from an internal platform, so I'm not sure what the social media integration capabilities are. But OrgSync, Collegiate Link, Community, and Check I'm Here all have social media integration, at the very least to Facebook and Twitter. Collegiate Link also offers Google+, and Check I'm Here offers Instagram as one of their natural connections that's offered in the platform. So it's very commonplace. These companies know that this is where students are at, and it's a feature that is widely available among all of the platforms. Great question.
I'm sure it varies based on institutional size, but someone had a question about approximate cost for these platforms.
Yeah, so it really depends on your institutional size, the number of organizations or users that might be in your portal. The great thing about it is most of these platforms and companies are very flexible in their pricing. Go in and talk about what your needs are, and I can almost guarantee they're going to work with you to meet a price point that makes sense and is able to give you the functionality you're looking for. I know just from talking to Ruben, for example, that that's something that they pride themselves on. They pride themselves on being able to be a strong experience on any size campus, and that they'll work to make that experience possible. So, you know, cost is a huge consideration, but yeah, it really does vary. I won't cite exactly where this particular number comes from, but at a large public institution that I'm aware of, I would say the annual cost for one of their platforms was, I think, $12,000 for their contract. Now, again, because it's a private contract, I don't want to divulge what platform or who that was with, but that is an example of somebody who might have had, say, 700 student organizations in their portal. So it's flexible, and it really does vary.
Great, thanks. And as people have questions, feel free to jot in the questions box. Someone else asked if there was a way to track what orgs clicked on links to video training, or I guess just in essence, do any of these kind of capture like the clicking and that kind of capacity?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I don't know if there's like, I'm assuming when we're talking about clicks that we're talking about like Google Analytics of how did somebody get from one page to another and in how many clicks. To my knowledge, I don't have that feature in Collegiate Link, which is the platform that I'm currently using. I'm
seeing Ruben's writing a response in the question, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what platform that was, but CIH can do that.
Yeah. Check I'm Here can do that. So that's interesting. I think that they probably can at a certain level of administration. I'm sort of at a mid-level administrator view, so it's possible that our overall administrator of Collegiate Link on our campus has that capability. I do not. That's a really great question to be able to ask when you reach out to these platforms. I'm sorry I can't give you a more complete answer on each platform, though.
Thanks. Another question was which, if any of these platforms, allow you to easily export the data for assessment and reporting. And I know that we use Collegiate Link here, and I know that that can all be exported into SPSS and Excel, but I don't know if you can speak to any of the others.
Yeah, so all of them give the option to export into either a CSV or Excel document, which is CSV is just a format of an Excel document. So it automatically does organization based on your content headings and whatever form or data you're trying to collect. So that's one option. If you're looking for simple data dump, I know OrgSync and Collegiate Link at least have PDF capabilities. If you're just looking for a straight up PDF of your of your data and you don't need to do any manipulation of data. Like I mentioned, they do have visual representations of things in some of these platforms. As you saw in the view into Collegiate Link, they give you kind of the numbers and overall quantitative data of certain elements of your portal. Same sort of thing happens in OrgSync, and Check I'm Here has some really great options as well for visualization of data. That's something that they pride themselves on.
Great. I guess there's a follow-up question. I'm not sure if this is to you or Ruben specifically, but just whether or not that analytic component could capture an IP address or be able to track if orgs are completing things. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, so you can track IP address through form submissions, and you can also, they all come with some version of a timestamp. So say you're doing your annual registration process and they have a deadline of September 1st at 5 p.m., you get a timestamp of when they completed certain things in certain forms or modules or whatever you might upload. So yes, there is a way to track when an organization completed something and where or how they might have been accessing that. That information is available through most of these platforms.
Okay, great. The last question, and I'm not sure if you can speak to it exactly. Someone just asked if these programs, which is the most student-friendly, easy to use. I'm sure they all kind of have their pluses and minuses, but that was the question that I just saw pop up.
Yeah, so as with any technology that you're unfamiliar with, there is a learning curve, but I find that the learning curve is extremely manageable. I started out as an OrgSync user back when I was an undergraduate student at Loyola, and I have since transferred between many of these platforms, sometimes more than once or using multiple at once. I use Collegiate Link and OrgSync both right now. Collegiate Link, I work at the University of Chicago, and then ACPA is on OrgSync currently. So there's a bit of a learning curve, and it really comes down to user interface and the overall feel that you have with it. You know, it's kind of like when people, if you're on Facebook and they make Facebook changes, you always have the people who adapt really quickly to new Facebook rollouts, and then you have the people that kind of gripe a little bit about, like, I don't like this new feature. You know, there is a learning curve, but they are extremely easy to use, and I can pretty much guarantee that all of them have really powerful help desks that are able to train you and kind of give you that help you might need to figure something out if you're having a hard time with a feature. So I think it's something that's particularly easy to navigate. As a student, students latch onto this. They're very tech savvy these days. You know, that's the millennial generation, right? If we're talking about traditional students at any rate. But yeah, for administrators, I think that, you know, there's a learning curve, but it's nothing that's completely unmanageable. And it's even fun. It keeps you up to date and with the times and puts you in that kind of perspective of what students are looking for and what they're interested in.
Okay, so we got another one. Thank you. If a college is looking to track volunteer hours for students, would the co-curricular transcripts be the best tool to use for that in these platforms, or would there be another way that they could do something like that?
Yeah, so the co-curricular transcript is probably the most overall general way, but you could create different, like, form submissions. If you wanted to track specifically service hours, you could link to a different form, something of that nature, where they would be able to submit and have it go to a different data dump or data point if that's something you're looking just to separate out. But otherwise, I'm thinking also within the co-curricular transcript, you're able to customize it. So it may be possible for a student that's filling out a co-curricular transcript to indicate on the form that this should be considered service hours versus you know, social involvement, for example.
Okay. Great. Well, I do not see any more questions. I'll give it about a minute if anyone has any other questions. And Okay. If you want to, do you have any other notes? Because I can turn it back over to myself. I was just going to put up one more final slide unless you have anything else you'd like to extend
Yeah, so
on.
just a few last notes. Keep the conversation going anytime at the hashtag on Twitter, whether it's about this topic or anything student orgs related. This is going to be our Twitter home for the year. I monitor it regularly, so I'm happy to reach out. Feel free to tweet us at CSI_ACPA. Find us on Facebook. And I think we have some other goodies to show you on Laura's screen, so we'll switch on over.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Well, just to wrap up, I just want to thank Derek so much, and for you all for dealing with my audio challenges. Our next webinar that we'll try to be advertising for is coming up on Wednesday, September 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Student leadership competencies, insights, considerations, and applications. And I'll leave the link up for a minute or two. And if you have any questions about this or upcoming webinars, feel free to email me at my email address there, laura.awalazek@vanderbilt.edu. But I'll stay around for a minute or so, and thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it.